Okay, second to last chapter, I believe. Yes, at least for now. I don't know if they're adding more to it or not. But, anyways. Sheeple, Fleecy, and White were born and bred in the small city state of the Meadow. They've taken up permanent residence there in settlements like the world famous township of Ba. Really, the charming village of Ba, and the historic capital of Ba. There, the sheep have built their own quiet barn-like cottages as homes. It's a very pleasant place to live, with sunny blue skies, billowy clouds, and plentiful green grass. So much that the sheep had not needed to migrate anywhere else for generations. And a good thing, too, because they would probably get hopelessly lost and starve to death. You see, sheeple are a democratic society. The sheep follow the will of the masses, or the flock, if you will. Problem is, all the sheep will vote in favor of the very first suggestion any sheep happens to make. Yes, these remnants will follow anyone who decides to lead, or whoever decides not to lead, which happens quite often. Another interesting thing to note about sheeple is that they live side by side with sheepdogs. You may be surprised by the notion of a predator not only existing in phoneme, but actually living with prey. No one really knows how this came about. The popular theory is that dogs are descended from friendly Omega wolves who were harmless enough to hide with the sheep while the rest of their kind were disappearing. Whether the sheep knew they were wolves in their midst is anyone's guess. In any case, the wolves changed over generations, their predatory instincts evolving into protective ones. Now they serve the sheep as guardians, shielding the sheep from harm, in their own backusness. I don't read. That's a theory, anyway. The sheep cannot corroborate the story or understand it. Order! Order in the court, the Prime Minister cries. Oh, wait, it's literally Canada now. Court? Is this a trial? Palm questions. I thought this was the Commons chamber where we're supposed to come to vote. Should I try to voice Palm? I don't know. She looks around the chamber, hoping for more information. The room is large and round. The structure was built just a few generations ago when sheeple first settled in the meadow. So the woods shows only a little wear. The walls are stacked stone, white and gray, and the ceiling thatched, of course. These observations aren't harmful, but Palm has never been at the Commons chamber before, so it is at least interesting. Unfortunately, her fellow sheeple are not so helpful either. They only bleat in general direction of their Prime Minister, and nothing about their demeanor offers her any reassurance. I'm so confused. I shouldn't have come. I don't belong here. She is the youngest sheep in the room, tiny, with spindly legs and short new baby fleece. A little lamb amongst stocky, round ewes, and rams who resemble overweight clouds, especially the Prime Minister. Palm notes that his puffiness is the only thing more impressive than his spiraling horns. It must have been some time since he was sheared. She stifles a giggle, speculating what sort of personal items he must lose in there on a regular basis. Now, the Prime Minister announces to the room, on to the first item on the agenda. He speaks in a haughty tone, full of self-importance. The bleeding finally quiets. He slides his glasses up his long nose and reads from the notes lying on the podium. Regarding the feeding of the sheepdogs. Shall we vote? Yep, I was right. This is a vote. Still, Palm thought why he was calling for order in the court when it was a chamber. I must be missing something. Oh, Palm, why are you so dumb? This is the issue that brought her to the Commons Chamber. She has a small pack of 4 sheepdog pups who were given to her for protection, as all sheep are given. In short time she has had them, she has never seen them eat any of the grass that had been set out for them. She tried to feed them other types of food like hay, leaves, even flowers, and the dogs had no interest in anything that grew out of the ground. But somehow they thrived. She set out to find out why, and it led her to a fascinating discovery. The dogs hunt mice and rabbits, pests that would otherwise destroy their crops, and all the green food left out for the dogs dries up or rots away. Green food that could otherwise go to needly sheep. This is the reason why she is here. The Prime Minister continues, "Yes, you see, we've been feeding the dogs alfalfa, but the question's been raised that perhaps we should instead feed them clover." "I already tried," Palm starts, all eyes shooting at her. She shuts up. I already tried that, she wants to shout, but it won't work. But she can't muster the strength to say it out loud, and fuck my phone. Let us vote then, shall we? All in favor? The sheep all beat. Bah! Being a sheep and having no gavel, the Prime Minister bangs his head on the podium to finalize the vote. Bam! It's decided then. He declares. What's decided then? I'm so confused. The clerk at you with a high-pitched voice asks, "So, is it clover then, Prime Minister?" "Yes," he pauses. No. What were we voting for again?" "Alfalfa or clover," the clerk clarifies. "For the dogs, yes, of course, thank you. Let's put it to a vote, shall we? All in favor?" Bah! The herd votes affirmatively. It's decided then. Bam! Got it. Alfalfa, the clerk confirms. Yes, he pauses again. No, wait. Let's put it to a vote again, just to be sure. It takes the Prime Minister 4 hours to figure out how to phrase the question properly, and ultimately clover is decided upon. And Palm never works up to the nerve to speak the entire time. Making sure my phone's not damaged. Palm leaves the chamber confused as ever. Like a good herding animal, she follows the flock from the town square of out into the countryside and down dirt roads with wood fences that wind through the green grassy landscape. Intermittently, they pass clusters of cottages with thatched roofs and vining flowers, rolling grassy hills, and always present in the distance. As they go, the flock disperses as the sheep come upon their own villages, and eventually Palm finds herself in her family's pasture, happy to greet her puppies, Woof, Ruff, Tuft, and Puff. I'm not going to question it. Why did they waste so much time voting on something so pointless? Why did they waste so much time voting on something so pointless? She sighed with frustration. She knew the dogs will never eat clove, and now those crops will go to waste. You should have said something, you egg. Frustrated with herself, she resolves that next time the sheep are about to make a poor decision, she will not question herself, she will speak. Suddenly a pup growls. Palm's stomach flips. All 4 pups stare at a thicket on the edge of the clearing that haggles up. Teeth bared. Palm shivers too, paralyzed with fear to even look for somewhere to hide. The puppies attack. They charge in, snarling and barking. She hears a frightened scream. Palm screams too, as out leaps Woogums, her older brother. She breathes a sigh of relief as they embrace as they embrace. Palm, he says, enduring an attack on his legs by affectionate puppy tongues. He pulls a scroll out of his wool, his voice urgent. I have an important message from our cousins in the warm bloods of the, oh boy, Kaimanawa range? Kaimanawa? Okay. They say it's a matter of life or death. Who is texting? Life or death? Again, that was terrible. Life or death? I can't do Palm. Again, Palm's stomach flips over, with her knees knocking at the thought. Well, she pleaded, what does it say? Yeah, nah, I didn't read it. You didn't read it? Why not? He pauses. Isn't the answer obvious? I can't. There hasn't been a vote. Oh, for the love of... Palm sighs. Back to the Commons chamber it is. Order! Order! Order in the court, the Prime Minister cries, ramming his head repeatedly onto the podium. We shall now put to a vote the next subject on the agenda, he announces to the room. Shall we read the urgent matter of life and death message from the horses? All in favor? Bah! The flock votes affirmatively. Excellent, he affirms. Palm holds her breath as he unrolls a scroll and reads aloud. The sheep listen, mouths agape, as the message informs of the impending return of the predators, the threat to the entire world, the possibility of being eaten, and the need for a champion to keep it all from happening. The sheep are stunned silent. Then panic. Palm can barely keep herself from fleeing while the flock races around the chamber, bouncing over and off one another, bleeding chaotically. Order in the court, I say, the Prime Minister shouts, bashing his head onto the podium. Bam, bam, bam. The flock calms just enough to hear him call for the vote. Now, should we help the world of Phonum and all the creatures in it? Should we find the champion of the meadow? All in favor? Palm braces for defending. Bah! But hears nothing. Nothing at all. All around her, she sees the uncomfortable shifting the eyes to the floor and hears a low, non-committal mumbles filling the air. The cowards. Always they can be counted on to vote yes, but now that the world needs them... And then she remembers the promise she made to herself. She steadies her shaking knees, reaches deep down and finds all her strength and bleats out loudly. Of course we should! All for voting Palm as champion, the Prime Minister blurts out. Bah! Wait, what? The herd suggests towards her and lifts her into the air. All hail the champion of the meadow! Bah! Bah! Hold on, wait, she stammers. I didn't mean it. I mean, we shouldn't help. I mean, just say that's a stink idea. The flock hears nothing. She is so brave, they cry. She is so strong, they exclaim. Only the most mighty among us would state their own opinion. Normally, Palm would take note of how oddly direct these statements were, but she's far too busy regretting speaking her mind and being utterly horror-struck by the task that lies ahead of her. Palm and her pups stand at the border of the meadow, looking out into the gigantic unknown, completely terrified world. The instructions she was given swim inside her head. What is this key she is supposed to find? Who is the monster she is supposed to face? How did I get myself into this? That was so dumb. What were you thinking? The uncertainty of it all has her paralyzed with fear. The puppies nudge her forward. No one knows for sure what goes on in the minds of dogs, but perhaps they know that this one is not as stupid as she thinks she is. There. And if they can keep her standing, she might just surprise everyone. And that's the end of the chapter. That was kind of a long chapter. Anyways, Bah!